We're really excited to talk to you today about building parents' knowledge of behavior management practices to enhance engagement. So that is a long title and even longer ambition. So let's get started. So we are with the Center for Effective Schools, and our mission is to support students, teachers, parents, the whole system, and really supporting our effective evidence-based practices and really supporting our students in being successful across all environments. So we would love to hear from you. So just kind of like this morning, we're going to ask for you all to share a little bit about. We're going to ask you some questions. So if you'll scan the QR code, and I'm going to see, I see 23, 4, wow, that number is going fast. Awesome. And then we'll see on the next slide if it gives us a code. Okay, so I see lots of people are having a good time getting in. All right. Oh, I see a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. When that number kind of oh, look at all these emojis. This is awesome. Oh, I love the enthusiasm. Okay, it's still ticking. Okay, we're kind of settled at 116. So, let's see. Okay, oh, I love technology when it works. Okay, so if you'll type in that code, XXGBDN, and then if you'll tell us, what experience do you have with parent training? It's going to give you 4 options. It's anonymous, so there's no wrong answer. And I'm looking for my 70-ish number to get as close to 119 as possible, and then we'll keep it moving. I'm watching my time. Don't worry, y'all. Okay, so it's looking like I see a majority are saying that they've never trained parents, which is awesome because we're going to talk a lot about the basics of parent management training and what that can look like with your different schools or systems. So you're in the right place. You've offered information. Some people are feeling like they've offered informational parent sessions at their school or program. And then some have trained parents in how to improve behavior management or help their child with stress or anxiety. Okay. All right. Okay. So here is what we're going to try to do in the next, 53 minutes. So we really want to give you kind of an understanding of the benefits, like why you would want to build parent skills, describe a mechanism for building parent skills, and then talk about how we have worked to build parent skills. Here's our roadmap for how we're going to meet those expectations or those objectives I just put out there. And first, we're going to start with family engagement. Just a little bit of background information that I'm going to kind of go over a little bit quickly just for the sake of time, but just to give us all kind of a similar foundation. We all work in schools. It's very possible that you have been in schools for your whole life. You were a student, and then maybe you were a college student, and then maybe you did a practicum or an internship or a student teaching placement, and then you went back into the school as a counselor, a psychologist, or teacher, a special education teacher. So it's very possible that schools are your comfort zone, that you really love those concrete walls, and you really feel like at peace when you're at schools. And sometimes we can forget that parents don't always feel that way. To some parents, schools are really intimidating, especially if they have negative past experiences, either as students themselves or interactions with the school system with either their current student or a student that they've had in the past. So we really want to focus on reaching out a hand to parents and welcoming them and saying, hey, you're welcome at this table and we want to help you. And we want to be partners with you. So that foundation is really built by building a positive relationship, two-way communication. So sometimes it's us talking to parents a lot more than parents talking to us. equitable family representation, which we're going to talk about a lot more later, and then database decision making. Are we helping parents in the way that they want to be helped? And is it effective for the skills that we're trying to teach? So you'll see as we outline kind of how we have implemented parent training that our foundation is the 4 A's. So approach, how educators approach families, and educators can be anybody affiliated with schools. So all of you. Attitudes, so the attitudes that educators hold regarding family involvement. So a great place to start is to do a parent training, because that sends that attitude that they're welcome at your school, at your district, with your program. The atmosphere that's created, which we're going to talk more about, and then the actions, what we're actually doing with families in a collaborative, partner-oriented way. Okay, so family engagement rocks, basically, is what you need to know. But we also know that family engagement helps increase positive outcomes for students. It helps ensure the system we're building or the system we're refining is reflective of what our family needs and what the community that our students live in need. And then it helps with generalization. So we know from generalization research that if we want our skills to generalize with our students, we need to have them learn them and apply them and practice them and get them reinforced in all the settings that they function in. So that's usually, for students, home and school. The I got 5 minutes, okay. So the Hoover-Dempsey-Sandler model is kind of the foundation from which we work. And it really talks about family engagement beginning with families as family decision-making about involvement happening first. So families are making decisions about involvement, and then we culminate to student outcomes. But we're really going to focus on level 1 and 2 as kind of rationale for the work that we have done with parents. So it's kind of tiny, so I'll try to read it. So we have life context variables, and specifically what we want to point out here is that parental knowledge and skills is part of this level 1 life context variable. So we want to give parents the knowledge and skills so they know how to participate. And then we want to encourage involvement in behavior supports at home. So parent involvement forms involvement activities at school and involvement activities at home. So sometimes parents don't know what to do with their kids. They don't know what behaviors to reinforce. They don't know to have behavior expectations. And so we're really helping them. As anyone with kids knows, they don't come with a manual. I know it's the oldest saying in the book, but it's true. And so we really want to help equip our parents with skills so they can engage appropriately at home and then help generalize those appropriate skills to the school environment. So you're kind of helping yourself too. Okay, and then we get to level 2, where parents can apply skills like encouragement, modeling appropriate behaviors, reinforcing behaviors, and instructing on desired behaviors. We see that parents impact student characteristics that then support students being successful in the classroom. And so it helps with student self-efficacy, their motivation to learn, student self-regulation skills, and then students demonstrating appropriate desired pro-social behaviors. But we have to teach those skills to parents first so that they can then help teach those skills to their students. Okay, so we know that parent training helps reduce problem behavior in the clinical population. We also know it's helpful for all children, parent management training, to make meaningful improvements in behavior. And we see these improvements in the short term and in the long term up to 6 years. And again, that generalization piece. So you're helping parents, you're building a positive relationship, and you're helping yourself. Win-win. So behavioral parent training is one of the probably most popular terms for parent training. It's really has a lot of evidence to inform it. It's a really strong mechanism for training parents. And again, we're hitting all those things we're looking to do: develop relationships, engage families, and build skills. So behavioral parent training has been around since the 1950s when we really tried to orient ourselves to building skills in the home environment. And it's built on social learning theory with the goal of really using parents as change agents to empower them to look at their students' behavior, reinforce what they want to see, and correct undesired behavior. So we're going to talk about the core fundamentals of parent training next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel. Rachel Eisenberg. I'm going to put this in here because I tend to talk with my hands, and you don't want me whacking this everywhere. And I just lost a minute of my presentation time. Okay, less time. You have to listen to me talk. No, so now we're going to talk about some of the core elements of parent training. These elements of parent training can be applied across a variety of implementation formats, and we're going to talk about different examples that we've applied, but I want to share with you how this can be implemented across tiers. Can everybody hear me now? I'm sorry. I tend to be quiet. I was told that I'm quiet in a lot. I said I have a quiet voice. Maybe you don't hear me well in large rooms once, and then my boss was sitting right in front of me and said, no, we can't hear you in small rooms either. So sorry about that. Hopefully, can you hear me in the back now? Everyone's good? Okay. So there are a range of parent trainings that span prevention and intervention resources. You may find some of these are familiar. Let's just take a quick look to give you a frame of reference about what we're talking about when we talk about parent training. So at the universal level for everyone, we provide parent training in the form of like general parent advice, strategies that they can use for good behavior management at home. You'll see Super Nanny here. Any fans of Super Nanny? Joe? Anybody? Really? Not as many as I thought. But you're familiar. Maybe you're not a fan, but maybe you're familiar. So the families that Joe visits have more intensive needs. So that may be more of a tier 3 need for that family. But the fact that it's televised, that's a tier 1 intervention for the general population, essentially. It's sharing parenting strategies for everybody. We're also going to talk about the toolbox of parenting skills as one of the implementation examples that we have of parent training. Parent training at the tier 2 level may look like multiple parent and sometimes also child training sessions over time. You might be familiar with some of the examples here. They're intended for youth who are more at risk for having more behavior needs. And then parent training at the tier 3 level is a more individualized intervention that's greater in intensity and content of delivery. You may be familiar with Oregon's model of parent management training. A lot of what we're going to talk about is based on those core tenets of parent management training, even though we're talking about it at the universal level today. So parent management training skills are based on those same core skills regardless of the tier in which they're provided. These practices span from preschool through secondary education. So again, though our examples in a bit will focus on universal practices, the core tenets of the parent training remain the same. So listed here are the 5 core parent management training skills, and they're offered in an intentional order to help parents build their skills as they go, to then begin to notice their children's behavior, attend to what their kids are doing first, then set good rules that they want their children to be doing. You'll see that some of this overlaps with a lot of what we talk about in PBIS, set good expectations and rules, then make effective requests for following those rules, reinforce those requests and the children following that actual expectation, and then delivering corrective consequences effectively. So we're going to take a quick look at what each of these looks like before we get into the examples of how we implemented this. So attending and ignoring is a very basic, though difficult skill. It's hard to be quiet and just watch your children. And parents need to first learn that to be able to observe and see what their kids are doing, because so often, and you probably see this in your own school, some of you may, I will admit, as a teacher, I was guilty of this too, where you see the problems and you don't always see the positive behaviors. So we really have to teach the parents to see everything that's happening, to notice the positives as well. So before you can comment positively or negatively on the behavior, the parents have to be able to attend to it. They have to explain how their attention can change their children's behavior, and then they can start to identify what are the behaviors I want to see happen more, and then what are the behaviors I want to see happen less. So here are some examples of how parents can practice using attending and ignoring. They can just give this verbal description of a child's activity. So they can watch, and then they can say, oh, you're picking up the train. Oh, that train connects to the other train. Like, without really comment, just narrating what the child's doing. Then they can start to give attention for pro-social behavior. So giving attention for what the child's doing well. You put the two trains together so nicely. Oh, you put them down so gently. And giving that verbal praise. And then working on ignoring non-compliant behavior. But the key here is to withdraw attention and ignore minor non-compliant behavior. We don't say, oh, if, the siblings are kicking each other, ignore that. No. Don't ignore where people could get hurt, but we ignore minor non-compliant behavior. The next key skill is building household rules. So this skill helps parents set expectations for what it should look like for everyone in the home to live and function together. Again, this is for everybody, not just for the kids. Parents have to model the good behavior as well. Every family's rules will address specific needs within their family context and might include rules about chores or time limits or expectations for how to interact with or speak with one another. Listed here are some guidelines for using good rules in the home. We want to make sure that the rules are clear and specific, brief, developmentally relevant. If there are very young kids at home, stick with the same 2 to 3 rules per location expectation that you may have in a program-wide setting, those of you who are program-wide folks out there. You want to review the rules, you want to post them, allow child input when appropriate. Even for young kids, you might allow some input about, what do you want the rule to be here and how should we act in this setting, and don't blanket just go with what they say, but include their input, and that can help with buy-in. This is very similar to what you do in a school setting, right, with your PBIS system. So this isn't foreign, it's just making sure we do this with parents intentionally. We also make sure that the rules are taught in the location where they're to be followed, just like the lesson for teaching expectations in schools, and use the same guidelines that we do in schools. Give the to-do rule, not the stop rule. So here are some examples of household rules. They're geared a bit more toward an adolescent-filled home, as you can see from reading these, but you can see how they're positively stated and can apply to all members of the family. They're for everybody to follow. The next skill is making effective requests. So once we have good expectations or rules, we then can make the requests to follow them. So when we teach this skill, parents learn how to use effective requests to change their children's behavior. They learn specific ingredients for making good requests, and we emphasize that parents make requests specific and brief. Listed here, you can see some guidelines for making good requests. As with house rules, we keep them brief, developmentally appropriate. Again, similar to what you do in a school, but we want to make this intentionally done in the home with parents. So one thing about offering rules in a respectful way or well timing the requests, if a child's watching TV and you're giving them time to watch TV, maybe if you have to make a request, wait till a commercial so you're not interrupting the child and taking away something that you gave them that they earned. So that's something we remind parents to do. And again, be succinct. Request, even though we call them requests, they're not questions, they're delivered commands essentially, and we tell the children what to do. So here are some examples of requests we train parents to use. We use the first then request, also known as the PREMAC principle, or perhaps more fondly, grandma's rule. And we also teach startup requests, so having the parents look at what the child should be doing, explain what the child should do, not what not to do. The fourth skill that we use for parent management training is praise and rewards. So we teach the parents to be able to explain why praising is important, and we help them to develop reward systems to enhance the likelihood of the child following the rules. The skills we teach here focus on a variety of praise and reward options. So we actually start with non-contingent attention, which isn't really praise at all, or isn't a reward of praise at all. It's just giving that attention to fill up the child's bucket before a problem even happens. So we link that positive attention, build that positive relationship with the parent and the child before anything even occurs. And then we teach the provision of labeled and unlabeled praise and other social reinforcers like high fives, smiles, extra time with a parent, time doing something they enjoy doing, and also tangible rewards. So here again are some examples of praise and rewards: behavior-specific praise, nonverbal social interaction reinforcers, and primary and secondary tangible rewards. Our last skill is consequences. All the other skills focused on preventing and reinforcing pro-social behavior, and as you're familiar from implementing PBIS systems, that's not surprising, right? We want to focus heavily on preventing the problem and reinforcing the good behavior, and then we train the parents in how to manage the problem behavior. So the skills taught here are to use the problem-solving model, effectively communicate when engaging in discussion about a problem that they are having at home. When developing a behavior contract out of that problem-solving process, we help the parents to understand what they can do in setting limits and consequences and what is less appropriate. Responses to problem behavior within that problem-solving process may include brief privilege removal or brief removal of access to a preferred activity, and that happens within the context of problem solving. So here are the steps for problem solving to address a conflict. Parents are taught to use these steps in a conversation with the child, define the problem, brainstorm a solution with the child, evaluate what the options are and what's feasible and what's not. Child may say, hey, I don't like what you said, parent, and you may say, okay, well, I'm taking that option away that you said, but here are some others, and we can narrow it down to something we're actually going to select, analyze the decision, and then adapt it as needed. So now that we have an idea of what the content is covered in the training modules, we're going to explore two different modes of delivery for delivering parent management training. So these are two options that we've recently delivered with a school and a program. There I go, hitting the microphone. I told you I talk with my hands. Sorry about that. So the first option is the full training. So this includes 5 hour-long sessions with parents that are conducted at a time that's convenient for parents. We aim for 10 families per session, and we ideally have school leadership involvement for buy-in from the staff perspective. And then the second option that we're going to look at is training through use of videos provided to parents. And they're intended to be brief, a quick example of an application of a skill. Parents don't get to practice live with each other or with us, but it's a way to get some information out there to parents in a quick, efficient way. So I'm going to hand it over to Melody, who's going to talk about our toolbox of parenting skills and the full parent management training model as an example.
All right, testing. Can you all hear me? All right. Okay, so I had the privilege of seeing all this in practice with the school. So I'm just going to take you through my experience with the toolbox of parenting skills. All right, so the toolbox of parenting skills. So these trainings were designed to teach parents new strategies for parenting, as well as provide opportunities for parents to share those real life examples. And all of the sessions are highly interactive and all involved activities and materials you can take home. So at the beginning of each session, we had handouts ready to go. We also did like warm-up activities with the parents so they felt safe. So that was awesome. So in practice, this is how it looked. Toolbox workshops, it was 5 one-hour sessions in fall 2022. The trainings they were arranged on a weeknight between 6 and 7. Dinner was provided. We provided pizza, salad, cookies, and water. That's a small budget. Is that a big budget? I think it's a big budget for our training. All right. Incentives. So we did offer incentives, which were pretty cool. We gave out Wawa gift cards, Starbucks gift cards, Dunkin' Donut gift cards. Trainings were advertised through the school parent communication system. So some of the teachers may have sent it out during class dojo, things like that. So whatever system that they use to communicate to their parents. Each session had between 7 to 10 families. And the cool part about it is that it was a high level of leadership involved. The superintendent and principal attended some of these sessions. And home practice, again, we gave out handouts for our parents to take home and go through the material. All right, so what you're seeing here is the site's TFI summary report for their Tier 1 in spring 2023. So from the report, this is just things I'm gonna just pick out from the data. The Tier 1 component, it assesses, tongue twister here, the team's implementation and evaluation features of that Tier 1 PBIS implementation. They scored a 70%. The TFI parent involvement score was a 2, and the team composition score was a 1. And they're working to add a parent component to their team's 2023-2024 school year. So they're working on adding that parent component. And these were the action steps from that TFI report. So the first action step was to invite a parent member to the PBIS meeting, and the second one is to inform parents of PBIS expectation rewards, monthly and quarterly. That way we're keeping the parent involved in what's happening in our school regarding our PBIS system. So these are just some of the things that added to the school's success regarding this program. So identify the deficits in evidence-based skill areas. So, of course, we implemented that core parent training principle and the parent management training. Training materials were available after the training. So we also, we gave them handouts, but we also made the training accessible. We gave it to the superintendent, which they were in charge of making sure that they send it out to the parents. Language of the trainings. It was delivered in English. However, there was a Spanish interpreter provided for the parent. It was high leadership involvement. Like I stated earlier, the principal attended the parent training as well as the superintendent. And the superintendent was actually the point of contact for the trainings, which is very, very awesome. The superintendent organized the training times. And food for the parents and emails were again sent to invite parents out, and childcare. Children were present, however, childcare was not available. However, we did have a separate table for children, so if parents did bring in their children, we did have a separate activities table for children as the parents could be engaged in the training. And we had an interest and willingness from the parents. The parents wanted to be there. They were really highly engaged throughout the session, so it made it just very insightful for me to be there with them. And also attendance was really high. The parents who started out with session 1, they carried it out all the way until the 5th session, so that was awesome. And they also shared their personal experiences. I thought parents would, me going in with the mindset of parents would not be willing to share. They were really willing to share their personal experience with their children, as well as their personal experiences with school also, their school experiences. So just high engagement from the parents. So these are just some benefits of the full training model. It strengthens the school-parent relationship. It's also an opportunity for parents to discuss those shared experiences. It also reinforces skills students learn in the classroom and throughout their school building. And it reduces stress. I'm a parent. I took some of these parenting tips. So it reduces stress. And also it addresses those 5 areas of the parent management training that we stated earlier. And it also models the skills for parents. And also give parents a chance to do those role plays with their children. All right, so some of the challenges with the full training model that were present, it was language barriers. We want to make sure that we're trying to, implement this full training model. We want to make sure that we know if there is going to be a language barrier so we can provide support for our parents. Also, childcare. Some parents may not feel comfortable with leaving their children at home or with another care provider. We want to make sure that we might have a staff at our school that might want to volunteer while these trainings are going on. Also, attendance. Some parents couldn't make all of the sessions, but we want to make sure that we have high parent engagement where they're getting that full training model. Funding. Not all schools are built the same, so some might have an issue with funding the food and printing material for this training. I think the packet was about 60 pages, 50 pages. We provided a lot of resources, so I know some schools are saying, hey, I can't print more than 200 pages a month. So it might be a barrier with the printing and things like that. And school support. We want to make sure that our school is supporting us with the parent training. We want to make sure our teachers and our school staff have a good relationship with our parents so they're more likely to share the information out. All right, these are just some other considerations if we are thinking about this model. We want to make sure we make adaptations for families with children who have special needs. So when we were delivering the models, a lot of questions came up to for parents who had special needs children. So we want to make sure that we are covering certain areas. I know the topic of autism, ADHD came up, so we want to make sure that we are thoroughly providing resources for those parents as well, for special needs children. Engaging other caregivers from the home environment. So if our parents cannot show up, we want to make sure that we have another point of contact who can attend these trainings as well. Engaging and connecting with other support staff within our school. This could be our counselor, special education teachers, classroom teachers. Engage and connect with them to see if they would be able to attend some of these trainings to make that connection with their families. And we also want to make sure we think about cultural considerations. So we did a disclaimer at the beginning of these trainings because we know there are cultural considerations when it comes to parenting styles. So we made a disclaimer that, these are just tools and skills that we can use, but if it does not apply to you or it might cause some cultural differences, we may not want to go and use this specific skill. So we just kind of made a disclaimer at the beginning of our trainings with that. And also think about how you are promoting this material. Are you going to promote it through the principal, the superintendent, school-based? So you want to make sure that the promotion of the material is consideration as well. All right, so next we're going to move on to parenting tip videos. So you guys get to see some videos of this in practice.
All right. Melody's a little taller than I am, so let me bring that down a bit. So parent training is just really beautiful. It's really beautiful to see in person, have those interactions, and be able to see parents working to support their children. But we all know, you might be sitting there thinking, how in the world is my school going to do all of this? This is a lot. This is a lot to take on. And we had a program who kind of felt that way too. They said, this is great. We want to get this information out there. We want our parents to be more informed. But having these sessions is just a little too much for us to take on right now. So we adapted to that. We wanted parents to feel safe, like Rachel had said in the beginning. We want them to feel welcomed and comfortable, and this is a way that we did it. So one way is by creating some parent tip videos. And what they really were in general, and you're going to see one, which is great, but they were about 3 minutes or less. They were really accessible, super digestible for our parents. So they were skills that they could look at, see, and then go ahead and turn in practice. So it was really great and really digestible. They were skills that were taught, just like Melody had mentioned, at school and at home. So again, they could get that crossover from what the language using at school is and also use that at home as well. And then also, it's supporting their behavior management. Like Melody said, relaxing and being less stressed is really great. Just like Melody, I took some of these tips too for my two little ones at home. So that's really what the parent videos were all about. It was, how can we give parents little tidbits of information that are still rich with content and things that they can do. So as you saw already, these are our skills, right? So we had attending and ignoring, household rules, effective requests, praise and rewards, and consequences. When we looked at what this one particular site really wanted to hone in on, it was more of the household rules and praise and rewards. And since we were making these little videos really adaptable for them, we could really target those skills that they wanted to practice with their parents. And that ended up being routine. So really big on morning routine, bedtime routines, and then also routines for summer, because summer, as we all know, could be a little bit of a crazy time, right? So they wanted a way to be able to really structure that time so that it could be really intentional. And then they also wanted to practice some praise and reward. So making sure that they were able to praise their children and also double down on that and have that supercharged behavior-specific praise to really get the most out of that praise and supporting their children. So those are the two things that we've really, really honed in on, and that was able to give them some videos and tips that were super helpful for their parents. So how did we get there, right? Because again, going from a full training where you're doing 5 one-hour sessions to these little tip videos, how did we get there? So what we did first, we identified that they wanted behavior management training. They really wanted to be able to connect with their parents. They wanted them to have resources, but it was just, they were not able to accommodate that full training schedule. And they also said, you know what, we want these couple skills. We want to try it out with some skills first to see how that goes with our community and then go from there. So that's what we did. We identified those skills and then we said, okay, how are we going to do this? Well, we had an amazing, what I call teacher parent. So it was a teacher at the school who was also a parent, and she was like, you know what? I'll use my kids. We can make some videos. And she was amazing. She made some demonstration videos with her children, going over their bedtime routines. And it felt really good, right? It was relatable. It was people that we knew, that other parents maybe, knew they were part of their community. So it really worked well for them to see those different interactions. But that wasn't exactly feasible, right? We couldn't pull her back and pull her kids back every time we wanted a different video. That was just not something that they were going to be able to do. So we had to think, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. What can we do to still get that genuine interaction and those really specific skills, but holding that content up so that it's really helpful? So we decided to record some parent training videos. And this was really nice because of two things. So we were able to really make this sustainable because we can go in and record videos as much as we want. I could pull my kid in if I want to, but I don't necessarily have to, right? Which is really great. And then also they were super targeted. So again, we were able to look at those routines and that praise and make them adaptable to whatever that community needed at the time. And because of that, we were able to get a lot of great input. So we had parents on our team, we had teachers on the team, and they were able to say, you know what, this is what we want to see. And what they really wanted to see is some real examples that they could take, turn around, and then do with their children at home. So that's what we did. So we were able to then create those modules. And another great piece, and I loved that we were able to do this, they had a teacher on staff, or I'm sorry, she was a staff member on the staff who was Spanish speaking. They have a really high population of Spanish speaking families. And we wanted, again, that cultural competence. We want to be able to relate to them and to make sure that they're getting this material just as much as our English speaking families. So she was able to record our videos in Spanish as well. So we were able to have them both in English and in Spanish. So that made it so accessible to everyone who really needed and wanted these videos. So I do have a sample video that I'm going to show you. This one is on praise. It's really, really great. It shows exactly what we gave our parents, and we were able to push them out through Class Dojo, through email. You can even throw them a little QR code. Lots of different ways that you could access these videos to make them really accessible for our parents. So you get to see one of those with Rachel as the voice here.
We know how important praise is to encourage positive behavior. Let's talk about a way to be a bit more specific when you praise. When we use specific praise, we name the exact behavior the child did well. This is called behavior-specific praise. Behavior-specific praise is when you identify who is being praised, what they did to earn the praise, and a positive statement. For example, Elijah, you washed your hands with soap before dinner. Great job! Behavior-specific praise is one of the best ways to help children learn new behaviors. It is also a great way to reinforce behaviors that we want to see our children displaying more often. Let's look at some examples of behavior-specific praise. Thank you for brushing your teeth for 2 minutes before bed. You are sharing your toys so nicely with your brother. You did a great job waiting for me to take you to the store. Nice work putting your toys away. You used a kind and calm voice when you asked me for a treat. Thank you. What behaviors would you like your child to display more often? Try using behavior-specific praise after you see those behaviors.
So that was just one of our examples of a video that we pushed out for parents. And what I really love about this one is it gives them that language, right? Like sometimes, I don't know, for me personally, behavior-specific praise doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as just getting in that trap of, good job, great, thank you, all of those things that we normally would say. So this really helps to make parents think about what they're praising and how they're praising, and again, give them that language around how to give a really great behavior-specific praise. So again, that's just one of our examples that we pushed out for parents. So what are some things that make this schools really successful? So one, we want to make sure that we have an established home and school collaboration. This might be a little tricky to kind of push out these parent videos if we don't already have a pulse on the parent community at our school, right? That could be a little tricky. So we want to establish that, and then also that allows us to open up that communication so that if they have questions or they don't understand a skill, those parents are able to come to you and ask you for more information, since we're not really getting that check for understanding or how they're doing with that skill. We also want to be able to target areas of need. So we want parents to have things that are going to work for them. They're busy, we're busy, everybody's busy, right? They don't want to be watching 15 minutes of something that they might not feel is applicable to them. So we want to be able to target those skills that really are going to help them with behavior management at home. And we want to be able to streamline that communication. So sending it out on my son's school, they do like a weekly happenings letter. And this would be a great place to put that, right? Once a week, all the information's there, and here's a video for some success at home. And then also we want to be able to share the information about these skills. If we can do it in person, that's wonderful. If you can't, that's okay too. But these are a great thing to kind of give parents at parent-teacher conferences, if they're in school for a back-to-school night or some event, right? Here's this little QR code. Watch this video at home to learn more about praise. I'm still having that in-person contact with them and that touch point, but I'm not necessarily like, sit down and let me talk to you for 20 minutes about this skill, right, when they're trying to run out the door. So it's a great way to still get that touch point if you're able to. And just some benefits of our parent training videos. Oops, sorry. Again, targeted skill focus. We like that. We like things that are useful to us and to our parents. It's really simple to disseminate this, and you can do it in so many different ways, which really helps to reach lots of different parents. It's low effort by parents. They have to click, they have to watch, and it's over in 3 minutes, right? So it's something that they don't have to spend a lot of time going to or scheduling for or figuring out, transportation, things like that. It's really low effort for them, so they're more likely to listen to what you have to say or to watch the video. And it is a great way to illustrate a good exemplar for them. So, we take time in thinking of the examples we want to put in these videos so that they really are good examples so that parents are able to then just turn around and use them and move on. And sorry, I do talk a lot with my hands. I don't want to take this thing off here, though, because I'll drop it. So excuse that. there are some challenges, right? So development time and cost, we are lucky enough to be able to make those and do that for schools that we work with. But if you are doing this independently, it might be a tricky thing to navigate. You don't have that immediate engagement, right? If you're not giving that to them right on the spot in person, that might be a little hard to get that engagement, which is why it's so important to kind of have that established school and home communication going. And we don't really have that much of a check for understanding. We're not putting a quiz at the end. We're not asking them follow-up questions. There's no exit ticket. So that could be a little tricky, which, again, is why we want to make sure that we have that open communication so that parents can go to you and ask questions if they have them. And we're unable to kind of see who's watching them. So that's a little tricky when we're trying to see, like, is this helpful? Is this working? Now, one thing that we can do is we can create a YouTube channel. Your school might already have one. It's a great place to upload these videos to so that you can kind of see, okay, how many views are we getting here? Are people watching this? Is this something that's really helpful for our school community, or do we need to change it up? Because again, remember, we always want to be using whatever data we can pull to make sure that we're making decisions that are good for our school community and that are helpful. So just to kind of wrap us up here, some considerations when we are applying parent training. So at our school-wide, we want to adapt for different grades. How we parent train for a kindergartner is going to look very different from conversations and ways that we're going to approach middle schoolers, high schoolers. So we want to be really thoughtful and mindful when we're doing that. And we also want to make sure that we have that parent involvement. So how are we drawing parents in? How are we keeping them with us? And this could not be just through parent training. This is, are we inviting them to school events? Are they part of our spirit days? Are they coming in to volunteer? Are we creating opportunities for parents to be engaged in the community setting? That's really important to get that involvement and for them to buy into what you're trying to share with them. And then for a program-wide, logistics for in-person training, that can be really tricky, especially for people who have those younger children. We talk about childcare, who's gonna watch them? Are we gonna be able to bring them? What's that gonna look like? And then also, how are we sharing visuals so that parents can have them at home? What are we doing in order to make sure that this is something that is maintained at home with the best resources possible? Okay, so we have one more of these little woo claps here for us. So we do want to hear from you. We want to talk about how your school could benefit from parent training. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up there. There's the code in case you missed it the first time. But we'd love to hear, how do you think your schools and programs could benefit? There's no right or wrong answer, by the way. And I apologize for the water. I have quite a cough. Yes. I love that. People are liking those video clips. That's good. Collaboration. I think that's so important for our parents at home. It's so cool to see all the words that pop up and that are really great here. I'm seeing a lot of positivity here, though, like collaboration, connection, consistency. All of that is going to really build up parents and make them want to work with you and want to learn from you, which I think is fantastic. Give it another second here. I'm seeing parents in school right in the center, really big, which I love because that's showing me that connectivity, right? We want to make sure that that's the center of what we're doing. We're building that bridge and we're closing that connection on parents and schools. Awesome. All right. Thank you all so much for participating in that. I really appreciate it. All right, and we have one more. So we talked about our comfort with what we've done with parent training in the beginning. So what do you feel like, what's your comfortability level with parent training now that we've told you a little bit about it? And you can be honest, it's okay. Okay, so I see some of us are coming in with, we have some ideas that we can add in. And for our time's sake, I'll move us along in a minute, but I'm so glad that at least some of us are connecting and grabbing some ideas that we can learn. And again, if you have any questions or need any support with that, that's why we're here. So let's go ahead and just look at our next steps very quickly. So next steps in this would be partnerships with schools, right? How do we make this feasible? How do we do this in a way that makes sense to our schools? What other tips can we share? What do schools need? What do they want? And then also, we really want to be able to find a way to evaluate parents' level of involvement and also their engagement before and after training. So how can we make sure that this is applicable to them and that they're using this in their day-to-day with their children? So here are just some key takeaways, right? We want to tailor parent training to fit your school's need and your parents' needs. We want to be able to build that collaboration between home and school and create consistent language so that they're hearing the same corrections, the same praises at home as they are in school, so that we can really support that overall student wellness and making sure that they are performing in the best ways that they can. So all that to say, 5 minutes. Thank you all so much. We are here for you if you have any questions, and this is how you can contact us. Thank you for hanging out with us and learning about parent training.